Good evening everyone and welcome along to TTML. We are here of course for F1 action in this Season 5 Round 2 of the Championship as we take in the Italian Grand Prix from the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. My name is James Head, going to be taking through the stream as always on a Thursday night. Nobody is here alongside me in the commentary box, so you've got me for the next hour and a half, and if you hate me already, you're bound to hate me a whole lot more after the stream is actually over. But just to give you around why we're actually doing it in this way and not through the traditional graphics, Tom's not available, he's been relocated for work this week, he'll be back next week, Paco will be back next week as well. He, unfortunately, has had an unfortunately timed power cut, and there's thunderstorms in his area, so that is why Paco will not be joining me alongside in the commentary box. So if you hate me, tune out now. If you like me, keep tuning in to League Racing TV. You, of course, have got F1 and indeed F2 and F3 to take you company as well. And Noisy has just wished me thank you, Noisy, by the way. Good luck tonight for the solo comms, he has said to me in the Division Admins chat on Discord. Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a weird one, but hopefully we can take you through a really good race. We're already about 5 minutes behind in terms of setting up the lobby, and we've got a 5-minute delay, so we should be going around 8:05, so plenty of time to delve into all of the details, for me to waffle on just that little bit more, and to take you through, of course, what happened last week in TTML F1, and to remind you, it was TTG Tom who took the win with a stunning victory last time out in the Mercedes. Harry Banks finishing second and Noisy finishing in third on the podiums. Mercedes, Red Bull and Aston Martin, of course, they both drive for. And it is Tom, of course, who leads the championship on those 30 points, who leads the way in towards round 2 here in Italy. Harry Banks in second on 25, with Noisy in third on 20, Isotopic in fourth on 17, TTG Chris in fifth on 15, Hazara in sixth on 14, Funky Chicken in 7th on 13, Break FN in 8th on 12, Kazizzle in 9th on 11, very unfortunate with his late spin and late puncture, TFB Wedge in 10th on 10 points, and that's round off the top 10, Perpetuum defending champion in 11th, Machine Run Simply Superman picking up 8 points respectively as well, tied for 12th position, Perpetuum of course on 9, TTG, Kill, Recon, Tionus, Volokongan, Yorg and Tiago, and as well as It's Meg, they haven't picked up any points so far this season. So all to play for going of course in towards round 2 of the championship. And I've got to be honest and just delve into that a little bit more. Tom drove such a good race in the Mercedes. So absolutely, he could be the new rising star, I think, in TTML. If he produced the performance, and if he's here tonight, which I can see he is within the lobby, he should be the man to beat once again. Around the Temple of Speed, of course, in Monza. We'll delve into that, of course, in a little bit more detail. If Paco decides to join me and his power comes back up just before we get going, who knows, we could be doing a double commentary together, which will be fantastic. But in terms of the constructors as well, Red Bull lead the way in the Constructors' Championship on 37 points, Mercedes in second on 30, McLaren in third on 27, with Scuderia Ferrari, if I can get my words out, in fourth on 26, Alfa Romeo in fifth on 21, Aston Martin in sixth on 20, AlphaTauri in 7th on 14, Alpine in 8th on 9, Williams in 9th on 8 points, and Haas yet to pick up any points, of course, from last week in Bahrain. So that covers, of course, the constructors and indeed the driving standards as well. I'd normally be to and from between my co-commentators. There's come a good piece of love here in TTML F1. It's a good old-fashioned Formula 1 commentary with me at the helm, the head commentator, of course, of TTML. And if you do want to watch a stream with graphics, of course, you can. You can watch that, of course, for TTML F2. TTML F3 are also going live very shortly indeed. Aston Thomas and Andrew might take me through that one, of course, and it's Luke Etheridge and Pepsi Freak, I believe, taking me through TTML F2 here tonight. And I've just seen in the comments section there, the F2 chat, somebody's already got confused and thinking, we've got the graphics. We haven't got the graphics tonight, unfortunately. TTML F3 has just gone live as well, TTML F1, of course, here. And Flex, who is FRL Parrot, better known as, of course, in FRL. Good evening to you, my friend. How are you doing tonight? Of course, if you do want to think about any thoughts that you've got coming into tonight here in Italy, your top 3 predictions, let me know in the comment section, because I'm dying to hear what your guys' thoughts actually are. Of course, we are competing against PSGL PC tonight, so the viewers are going to be down. Views are going to be down, of course, with the graphics as well, and the no task system as well, I may add as well. I could not get that set up in time just because of the nature of Paco's power cut and everything that revolved around that. So, good old-fashioned F1 commentary, the task system, along with Tom, along with Paco, will be back next week, I can promise you that. But 14 drivers already here, which is fantastic to see. I believe we're waiting on Tionis, if I'm not mistaken, to join as well. He is doing the F1 game update. He was on 10% the last time I checked. Just tuned into the TTML F1 chat. And Tionis is saying... yeah, Tionis is saying about the qualifying glitch, and I think Mashiro's trying to make the point as well. Tionis, 50% it's on at the minute. He could sneak in before 5 pass. I would be very fair and maybe just wait a couple more minutes, because I think it's not going to take that long, I think, the update for Tionis. The race won't start, of course, if somebody joins in qualifying. Of course, it is against the league rules. If somebody wants to join in qualifying, they have to have the permission, of course, of the admin for the division, which is Mashiro in this case. And Tom, obviously not available. He would normally do this as well, normally counteract in behind the scenes. But, of course, Mashiro is our lobby host. He is going to be in charge of tonight. I'm going to be in charge of the stream, so hopefully everything will go well. And according to plan... just seen, yeah, we are about 2 minutes away from actually beginning this stream. This race, I should say. We've already begun the stream, but hopefully you are enjoying tonight. Hopefully we're going to keep you company, of course, for the next hour and a half or so. Probably one of the quicker races of the season, this in Italy. And, of course, we are at the Temple of Speed around a track shaped like a boot. Yes, you heard me right. Shaped like a boot, the Temple of Speed. And, of course, there are 11 corners for everyone to tackle out on track tonight. So, if I am not mistaken, and I will normally get these chicanes mixed up, first chicane is the Vetabilo chicane, through Curva Grande, into the Della Roggia chicane through turns 4 and 5, then into Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2 through 6 and 7, through the Curva del Savario at turn 8, and down in towards turn number 8, and then to Scori through 8, 9 and 10, and then Parabolica. But if you heard on Formula 1 in Belgium, they're actually renaming, in a week's time, Parabolica to celebrate I think it was a former F1 driver who recently passed away, or something like that, and the renaming, I can't think of the name of the corner, but we know it as Parabolica, of course. It is going to be renamed for that weekend, race weekend, and that race weekend only, in a tribute to the man who passed away, of course, most recently. And I'll try and search it up quickly to give you that little bit of a fact. Just give me a second, as I frantically try to do things at once here. Yeah, so it is now going to be named the Curva Alboreto, of course, celebrating the late Michele Alboreto, whose decorated motorsport career saw him take 3 wins for Ferrari from 1984 to 1985. So, Parabolica to be renamed the Curva Alboreto. I think it's a touching tribute, but of course, people, I know for a fact you're going to have a bit of a say about the renaming. I think it's a good tribute to Michele Alboreto, of course, a legendary F1 driver, especially in Italy as well. And, of course, Parabolica will come back the year after. It's only a 1-year thing. They are renaming the Curva Alboreto. So, with that being said, and with the Temple of Speed awaiting us out on track, we should be ready to go. I think everyone is now ready enough to get going. 14 drivers currently. Not sure if Tionis will join in qualifying, if he's been given permission. I'll quickly check that in the Division 1 chat. And yeah, no joining in qualifying has been said. Tionis, unfortunately, will not be able to race as a result of this no joining qualifying rule. It is a rule. Everyone has read the rules and regulations before we started off the season. So if you haven't read the rules and regulations properly, then it's really your own fault, and you should be knowing this sort of thing. But we're getting going, of course. Temple of Speed, no graphics, no track map, no track intro, nothing like that. And hopefully we're going to be delivering some great on-track action for you, with 14 drivers, of course, about to do battle around the Temple of Speed. And did you know 75% of this lap can be taken at full throttle? So everyone will be mashing. If you're on a pad, you'll be mashing the R2, and if you are mashing the throttle pedal, as I was about to say there, I don't know what I was going to say there, to be honest, but the throttle pedal, if you're smashing that as well, you're going to be having either an aching foot or an aching right hand for the R2 button on a pad. So That being said, of course, we get in towards quarterfinals, quite close in qualifying last week, I should say, and it was about a second separating the guys out on track. I would expect some sort of the same things in terms of the pace. We could see the likes of Tom, Perpetuum, Harry Banks probably up towards the top end of the field, Break FN as well. If he delivers well in qualifying, he could do that as well. But we are now getting going in towards qualifying, and the first thing that we can tell you, bone dry, sunshine, absolutely blazing across the Autodromo Nacional de Monza, and we are here, of course, with 14 drivers about to battle around the Temple of Speed. So we just wait on the first cars to come out on track, and I'll get the telemetry, the lap data, and the track map up for you, so you've got the full range of graphics, certainly from the in-game menu, out on track for you. So 30 seconds already gone in the session, nobody deciding to come out just yet. Wouldn't be surprised, actually, if anybody does decide to come out on that set of medium compounded tyres. It should be a simple one-stop around here in terms of the tyre wear. Soft compounded tyres normally last around lap 9, lap 10. Of course, it's a 27-lap race. And then the set of medium should transition to that 17 laps. And if that's the case, we should be seeing some very good action, of course, out on track. And a simple one-stop strategy. We have got now the first cars coming out on track. And it is It's Make who is coming out on track first. And Make didn't score any points last week in Bahrain. Hopefully more of a better result here tonight. Of course, 14 drivers. The minimum points that everyone is going to be picking up, by the way, for tonight, I believe, is 6 points that everyone is going to be picking up as a minimum, of course, if they do finish the race under their own volition. Make and Perpetuum, the defending champion, of course, from TTML F1 as well, is also out on track. He, of course, is in the Alpine. I was going to say he's in the Williams, but of course they're both very, very similar colours in terms of the colour schemes for both cars. And with 14 drivers, it shouldn't really affect the traffic. Maybe later on in the session it might just get a little bit tetchy, but with 14 drivers I think there should be no traffic problem, certainly, and everyone is going to get a clean run, of course, out on track. Let's ride on board then with It's Make. We're going to take up a lap with him very shortly indeed. And Make, this is his debut season actually in TTML F1 as well. The Dutchman will be hoping for a very good result, running car number 34, of course, in accordance to the task regulations. Of course, if you are trying to do the task command in the comment section, don't. It hasn't been set up, Paco's not here, I didn't have time, task system not running, good old-fashioned commentary with me being a solo commentator for tonight and doing David Addison. But Make that coming across the line to start us off on this lap, opens up the DRS, and look at the speed he will retain. Running down in towards turn number 1, car off to the right-hand side there is Noisy, getting out of the way in the Aston Martin. So now It's Make makes his way down in towards turn 1. That was a pun unintended, coming down through turn 2, and then in towards the Curva Grande at turn number 3. Of course, that was the Respilio chicane through Curva Grande, and now running up in toward the end of the first sector. Should be seen around the 26.4, 26.5 mark to 25.9 actually through the first sector. I think the first sector split is being moved back slightly from the last game, but It's Make comes through the Della Roger chicane, now in towards the first Lesmo. And then in towards second, let's move, of course. Valid so far on this lap. Now takes the right-hander through 7. A little bit of a tetchy rear end going on there from Make as the net comes through the cover del Savario and runs down now in towards the fearsome Ascari chicane through turns 8, 9 and 10. 52.1 through the middle sector. Very, very good in terms of the speed. Look at that coming through there. I could probably go a little bit slower than that if I was out on track, but It's Make that coming through in towards Curva Alboreto, or Curva Parabolica, of course. Parabolica given its traditional name, of course. Alex Peroni, F3 crash in 2019, causing the track to be changed slightly around that final section, and now It's Make runs to the line, and it's 1:18.9 to start off the night. We've got Perpetuum in behind as well. He's on a lap, comes across the line, 1:19.7, so the German a little bit off the pace. Might be just a banker lap, he might have just backed off his lap, maybe, and he might have not run much ERS. It doesn't look like he has, certainly, on that lap. But Make out on top, Nosy just starting up on a lap, Mashiro also on a lap, and our race winner, of course, last week in Bahrain, TTG Tom, now on a lap, and let's see what the Brit can do on a lap. He didn't come in for an interview last week, but he was very, very pleased, I think, with his result. There is a spinner coming through the middle sector. I think that's Make just on a down lap. Tom nearly invalidated coming through Ascari, but now on the run down and towards Parabolica. Looking quick again through the middle sector there, and we should be seeing lap times in around the 1:18s, maybe toward the lower end of that as we get through the session, and as the track temperatures rise and the track wear, I should say, and the tyre wear gets a lot easier on these guys. Tom now runs to the line, and he goes second, 300ths of a second off on Makes. AlphaTauri beating Mercedes at this point. Alpine now in third with Perpetuum. Jorg on a lap, Noisy on a lap coming through Ascari. Makers retired coming actually on the exit of Ascari, off to the right hand side, and he has crashed the car off into the wall. So he's made a mistake coming through the Della Rogers chicane. We saw that on the mini map, and now he's spun it coming through Ascari. And pole position currently is the best he could actually hope for. He'd be hoping that nobody will improve. I don't think Noisy is certainly improving. However, Mashiro does. 118.8 for Mashiro sets up on this lap. Noisy with a 20.4 will go a lot quicker than that. Jorg now on a lap as he comes through in toward the final corner. As Isotopic goes fourth as well. Wedge puts himself into fifth. Wedges himself in there. Pun not intended whatsoever. Oh, these are terrible. York comes across the line to go into fourth with a 118.964. Now Harry Banks just comes across the line as well, getting his first lap in. So, very close in qualifying, less than a second separating the top 8 at this stage. But, of course, we're only a third of the way through qualifying. Anything probably will happen between now and the end of the session. Simply Superman, looking super, coming through the middle sector, 52.4 through the end of the middle sector in the Alfa Romeo, as he now runs down in towards Parabolica, of course going to be renamed Curva Alboreto for this season's Italian Grand Prix. And Simply Superman now around the final corner in the Alfa Romeo, should be aiming to go around Jorg, Harry Banks sort of area, comes to the line, he actually goes top, 118.7, good lap from Simply Superman, and puts himself to the top end of the standings. Mashiro there in second, making third, Tom in fourth, with Jorg there in fifth, Harry Banks in sixth, Isotopic in seventh, Wedge and Nate Perpetuum in ninth, and Noisy rounding off the top 10. Noisy is a second up on this lap, however. Is he going to come into the pit lane? Yes, he dukes me straight into the pit lane as soon as I go on board with him. Hazara now on a lap, the Norwegian. And the AlphaTauri will be hoping for a very good result, of course, out on track. And coming through the end of the middle sector, 52.8, not the quickest we've seen so far tonight. Nearly runs over the curve coming through turn 9 and then through turn 10. A little bit of hesitancy actually on the power, just coming out of Ascari. And of course, around the track that can be taken 75%, full throttle, literally the minutest mistake, riding on a curb, killing the car basically over the curb with floor damage, will really cost you, especially on this game. Hazara runs to the line at 19.9, not a best lap from him so far. Tiago has just started up the Portuguese man on a lap, and Chris, the German, has also started up on a lap, 26.1 through the first sector. She's about 0.2 of a second off what we saw with Perpetuum's time as he goes flying over the curb, and that is well demonstrated from what I said about 30 seconds ago. If you get caught on the curb and you get floor damage, you might end up out of the session, and Chris, unfortunately, has just proven that fact down to an absolute T, and the Ferrari will not be going any further in this session. So we'll transition to Ecos Tiago, and Tiago now on a lap coming through the Curva del Seraglio on the run down in towards Ascari. And the middle sector 53 flat, probably not one of the quickest we've seen, and invalidates coming through turn 8, took too much speed coming through there, through turn 9, through turn 10, and nearly invalidates once again. I would imagine he'll come into the pit lane. Makesane, by the way, he tried a line coming through Ascari, he lost the car, and it's broken. B-W-O-K-E-N, broken there. Tiago though ran the final corner, and he is going to be coming back into the pit lane. I think also he might be just saving up his time, and now, yeah, he's into the pit lane. So, second lap time's about to begin. Mashiro there in second, 118.8 is out on a lap. Wedge and Perpetuum also out there. And Perpetuum on a lap in towards the final corner, on that lap I should say currently, and he is going to be one of the first men to come across the line. I think Break FN, in fact, is going to be one of the first men to come across the line to start off these second laps with halfway through qualifying. Simply Superman out on top, Mashiro second, and Make in third. As Break runs down in towards turn number 1, Red Bull through turn number 2, really finding the car on these curbs. These curbs really do take a lot out of these cars around here at the Temple of Speed. And Break now coming through in towards the end of the first sector. And given that he made a slight mistake and had a little bit of a squirrel, so 26.2 through the middle through the first sector, now into the middle sector through the Delavodge chicane. And Break FN now in towards turn 6. We can see just the oversteer going through on the car. He looks like he's got a bit of an unstable setup, but of course, park firmware is on here in TTML, so it won't change. You'll have to make minute changes maybe to the downforce, maybe to the brake bias as well, to make sure that downforce is fine. 52.4 though through the middle sector. It's actually not that bad. It looks like it's a purple middle sector, runs completely wide out of turn 9, loses the car into turn 10, and nearly ends up in the wall. I think he hasn't got away with damage there. I think he might have right side end plate damage if the camera cuts to him. And we'll try and pick up on board with him if we can. Perpetuum is just invalidated coming through Ascari as well. Break FN. And there is the... Oh, he hasn't got damage actually on the right side end plate, which is very surprising indeed. I thought he would have had a lot more damage than what was actually seen. Mashiro coming through Ascari, however. In the Williams, he's got yellow flags, of course, ahead, and that is for the slowing Aston of Jorg, who I believe is preparing up for a lap as he now comes through in towards the final couple of corners. Simply Superman, though, still out on top. He's just coming through towards the end of the first sector. Mashiro, however, on a better lap this time, and he's going to put it to Simply Superman, and puts it to him he does. 2.5 tenths, nearly 3 tenths up, in fact, on that lap of 118.5. We're already into the more mid-118s. Tom has spun coming through, however, just catching on board with the end of that. Tom has spun coming through the Della Rocha chicane. Another one that falls victim to the Della Rocha chicane. I wonder if we're going to see quite a few spins there tonight. Wedge has put himself up to second, and speaking of Tom again, he's nearly spun, and he has spun pretty much 3/4 round there, coming through in towards Lesmo 1. Jorg on a lap, he gets caught on the curb as well. Everyone taking a lot of curb. Harry Banks, by the way, 3 tenths up on a lap of 119.2, currently his best, and we know with Harry, his qualifying is good, but it's where the race and his tactical prowess out on track is where it comes good. Goes to the line, goes second with a 118.6, and of course, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the last time Harry Banks actually raced around here in TTML, certainly in EML, I think he took pole position for LR, if I'm not mistaken, and Harry Banks certainly knows his way around the track. Certainly, I believe it was a 1-2 that day as well for LR in EML last season. But Mashiro's out on top, Harry Banks in second, Perpetuum put his way into third as well after that invalid lap time. So he goes third, the 118.6. Let's see if there's anybody else on the lap. Isotopic's 2.5 tenths up, but he's invalid through the first sector. Noisy coming through the first sector is 5 tenths down. York is down as lap time as well. I believe then we'll run on board with whoever is furthest on an outlap. And it's Hazara as we now come on board with him. 19.9, probably not the pace that he wanted to be showing through the first sector. There is an Aston Martin, however, round in the first sector. I think that's Jorg, maybe just on a down lap. Hazara breaks through turn 1, through turn 2, and then towards Curva Grande at turn number 3. Hopefully you are enjoying the stream, by the way. Do leave a like, comment, subscribe, and tick that notification bell, of course, if you are new here to TTML. You've got F2 and F3 running alongside us as well. 7,000 up from Hazara through the first sector, 26.1, and really takes that. Looks like he's taking a lot of brake bias, maybe coming through in toward the middle sector, through Lesmo 1, and then through Lesmo 2. And I think where Lesmo 2 was, I think he made a mistake here on his last lap, and that is why he's probably down with a 19.9 instead of an 18.9, for example. So Hazara now coming through in toward the end of the middle sector. This middle sector will give us a lot, 52.6, and you can see he's 3 tenths up. It's his final sector, where he's got to be on the limit. Nearly on the limit, nearly spun the car, coming across the curb at turn 10, but Hazara is through safely. He now runs down in towards Parabolica. This is a good lap, actually, from Hazara as he now comes down. Could trouble the likes of Tom, Jorg, Noisy, in and around that area, I'm thinking, as Hazara now comes through the final couple of corners, runs toward the line, and he doesn't trouble him, actually. He does improve his lap time, though. 4/10 improvement from Hazara, goes into 11th. Thiago was invalidated coming through the middle sector. Might have had a spin, possibly out on track. 104.8 middle sector is definitely not what we like to see. Break event, however, on a lap. 26 flat, obviously invalidated his first lap. With 4 minutes to go in the session, by the way. Qualifying has gone quite quick. There's Mashiro out on top, Harry Banks in second, Perpetuum in third. So, pretty much, 2 out of the 3 top contenders, I think, barring Mashiro with an 18.5, well up there in the vanguard in qualifying, which is fantastic, of course, to see. But Mashiro still out on top. Break FN, though, coming in towards the end of the middle sector, just through the curve of El Travaglio. And he's quick, 52.3, coming through the middle sector. Normally the quick guys around here with ABS go around a 51.9 mark. So, in that sufferance, he's about 4 or 5 tenths per second off, and these lap times that we're seeing, because there is a line only here in F1 and F2, we're going to be seeing lap times in and around the mid-118s as opposed to the 117s, as you would with ABS users, possibly, and we might focus on that in F4 tomorrow night as well. Break FN, though, goes 6th, 118.7. Good lap time from him. as we haven't got anybody on a lap, I don't think. Wedge, I believe, is preparing for a lap. A 118.7 for him. And the Norwegian will be hoping for a very good result, of course, out on track. Murple, by the way, tuning into the comment section. Good to see you here. Good to see everyone tuning in as well. Hazara, Perpetuum, Isotopic top 3. And also, Parrot coming in as well. Tom, Make, Mashiro top 3, and Noisy P4. If this is your first race, by the way, I don't blame you for that prediction, if I've got to be honest. But currently, it's not looking too bad. Mashiro is there out on top. And Simply Superman has came into the comment section and said, do I want to ruin it for you? Of course I do now. It's a wet race. It's a full wet race, apparently, here at the Temple of Speed. So normally, a league race that normally takes around 45 minutes around here, 40 minutes maybe on a good day, will take about an hour, because it is full wet conditions, and that is going to be quite striking indeed. Mashiro has just started up on a lap. Everyone, of course, on the set of soft compound tyres, and that is why you're seeing the best times being set in this qualifying session. This is their one and only opportunity to get a lap on the board. 25.9 coming through the first sector from Mashiro, as he now negotiates turn 4 and 5 through the Delawacha chicane. He didn't look happy with that. I think he's backed off this lap, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, Mashiro has backed off this lap, was really not happy coming through the Delawacha chicane. Luckily for him, he has got another crack at the cherry. Perpetuum didn't catch on board with his first sector, but presuming he's normally quick through the first sectors. Now Perpetuum comes down in towards the middle sector. I believe, actually, he might be pairing up for another lap. I think he'd be down on his middle sector. And yeah, he's about 2 seconds down. So I think everyone just getting maybe warmed into the tyres for a final thrust. Isotopic is 3/10 up, however, coming out of Lesmo 2. Now through the covered El Seraglio on the run down in towards Ascari. This fearsome chicane, of course, has caught me out quite a few times. Isotopic again is another one that is backed off on his lap. So, really going to get times being set very late on in this session. We'll try and cover it all, even though it is just me in the commentary box. Mashiro then just starting up on a lap. Everyone else on that lap, and it's Mashiro who is going to be the first man to come across the line to start us off on these final laps. Yorg is in behind him as well. Noisy's still out there on an out lap as well for the Aston Martin team. But Mashiro out on top. Harry Banks in second, Perpetuum in third. These are the laps that will make or break the race. I will tell you that now. If it's full wet, people are going to struggle. 600s up from Mashiro, coming through the first sector. Needs to negotiate the Delawacha chicane well. Again, a little bit hesitant, but he's got to go with this lap. This is his final lap, but he's now got to commit this with very low fuel as well. That fuel light is flashing. Normally around 2 litres in qualifying that flashes on. So, if you think about it, he might run out of fuel before the end of the lap. There is a yellow flag through Sector 1. I think it's Perpetuum. That might be round through the end of Sector 1, and it is. He's lost his front wing. Out on track to Perpetuum. We'll only hope third will be best. Mashiro was down on his time. 500ths of a second. Really committed through the Ascari chicane. However, I don't think he is improving on this lap. And there, he just backed off the throttle there. That is him done. So Mashiro will not be improving. Next up to come across the line, however, is Yorg, and he's 3/10 up. 18.9, of course, a Division 2 driver last season here in TTML, now making the step up to F1 in line only tier, as now Yorg comes down that final corner, covering to the line. I think he could be Mashiro here. To the line. 18.7. Good lap from Yorg. Just seeing who might be next coming across the line. Wedge, there's another spinner coming through the middle sector. I think that's Noisy on a lap, if I'm not mistaken. So Noisy has invalidated. Perpetuum, obviously, with no front wing. Harry Banks, though, 18.6. He needs to improve 700ths of a second. Isotopic goes third. There's going to be a lot of improvements on the lap time to the left-hand side of your screen. Ecos Tiago, I think, is coming back into the pit lane as well, along with Perpetuum. Harry Banks, though, running to the line. Is he going to snick Mashiro? He does! 118.4, but that might not be enough because Wedge is improving. Simply Superman goes second as well. Wedge is 7/10 down. He'll not get a lap in. Tom goes fourth with an 18.6. Good lap from him. It's only Hazara then that can do it, and he's invalid. So that is the end of qualifying. And it's Harry Banks. Very, very late on in this session. A 118.438. It is 400ths of a second. Pretty much dead on. Separating him and Simply Superman. Mashiro there in third position. So Harry Banks, he might not be known as the King of Italy. He might well be known as the King of Italy after that lap. And of course, following backing up from the impressive performance of LR in EML last season around here, Harry Banks is out on top. Simply Superman in second, and Mashiro rounded off in P number 3. We'll wait, of course, for Noisy just to retire. He's back into the pit. I don't believe his car is still getting backed up into the garage. But Harry Banks out on top. Simply Superman in second. And Mashiro rounding off the top 3. What do you make of that session? Let me know, of course, in the comment section if you do want to get involved. And make your predictions now for what do you think is going to happen in the race. If it's a full wet race, who knows what is going to happen. It could be inters, it could be full wets, of course, out on track. But here's the full grid order, and it is Harry Banks out on top. P number 1 indeed for him. And according to that AI graphic there to the left-hand side, Harry Banks still out on top. The Irishman is Simply Superman in second. Good luck from him, with Mashiro in third and less than a tenth of a second covering the top 3, with Tom, the Dutchman, in fourth. Isotopic in fifth. Perpetuum in sixth. Jorg in seventh. Wedge in eighth. Look at how close they are, actually. A tenth of a second separating Tom all the way down to Wedge. Break FN's only 2/10 off these guys as well in ninth. Make in P10, with Noisy in P11. Azara in 12th. And Chris and Tiago not getting a lap time in their 13th and 14th. No time set on the boards. 5.5 tenths of a second pretty much covering the top 11. A second covering the top 12 who set lap times. So that's the end of qualifying. TTML F1. And you're going to act surprised now because I'm predicting it's going to be full wet conditions and we're going to be starting on the blue wall tyre. And of course I do have facts about the intermediates and the wets and how much they can dispose of. And we can see, actually, it doesn't look as bad as what I was thinking. Intermediate conditions, it seems. So, in terms of the intermediates around here and comparison to the full wets, which might transition maybe later on in the race, the intermediates normally around here will last about 17 laps. So about a medium stint around here is what the intermediates would last before you would need to pit in. Probably pit in before that, I would say, and that's just a general reference to the last year's game. And of course, the inters can dispose of 25 litres of water a second. 25 litres of water a second. So you imagine the spray that is going to be, the lack of spray that's going to be towards the end of this race if we are running this fully in intermediate conditions. However, of course, if the rain gets heavier, we go onto a full set of wet compound tyres. It remains to be seen, of course, if that will actually happen. But we see everyone on the set of intermediate. Formation lap has now begun. And the top 14 drivers around here tonight will be hoping for a very good result, of course, out on track. And of course, if you do want to catch more live action on League Racing TV, you can. F2 and F3 also run alongside us tonight, but also F4 and F5 of TTML and the assist tiers. They're going to be running tomorrow night. You'll catch myself and James Boyle for F4. And then it is TFB Buck, I believe, taking you through the action for Division 5, and there'll be a special commentator for that as well, which will be confirmed in due course. So, looking at the strategies, of course, everyone on that set of intermediate compound tyres, I would expect the guys probably from around the halfway stage, to be honest. Around lap 13, lap 14, they begin to go off the cliff, and that is when I would think the drivers will decide to come in, probably for another fresh set of intermediate condition tyres. If, however, the rain gets heavier, and it might just do that, as we see the predicted pit stop strategy come up, we have got intermediate conditions 13 to 18 on a one stop, and the one stop is probably the strategy that everyone is probably going to go on out on here in Italy. And a wet race around Italy, my first wet race, by the way, of an entire season of commentating so far on this game, which is absolutely brilliant, and I'm hoping that this race is going to be good. It has the hallmarks for a very, very good race. Maybe a race of the season candidate as we get towards the end of the season. Who knows? But Harry Banks is down on top. Simply Superman in second. Mashiro in third. Let me know, of course, your top 3 if you are watching us live and exclusive, of course, on League Racing TV. Let me know your top 3 now in terms of the race, and I am going to make my own prediction of the top 3 tonight. And if it's anything like last week and he can show the pace, I think Tom is going to win this. Tom showed so much pace last week in Bahrain in the dry. It might just be a one-off, he might be a one-track wonder, but who knows? What can this kid do? From 4th position on the grid, what can he do? I'm going to go Harry Banks for second. He's got consistent form around here, and you cannot overlook the TTML Division 1 champion of last season. That man there, Perpetuum in P6. Just waiting on Jorg, I think, to join up onto the grid behind Perpetuum. and the 5 red lights are going to come on very soon indeed for the action here at the Temple of Speed of the Autodromo Nacional de Monza, and the 5 red lights are now coming on in the gantry. We're about to get going for TTML F1 this season. And it's lights out and away we go. Harry Banks gets a very good start. Simply Superman, better phase in the second start, and he's going to be alongside. Running down towards turn 1, and there's already a collision in the background. Noisy and Break FN get caught in the collision, but Superman is ahead. Running down in towards turn number 1, there's a little bit of contact. Tom forced them out wide. There is all sorts of carnage coming through. Superman has had to cut the chicane, as well as Harry Banks. They've both picked up a 10-second time penalty. Tom technically leads the way then. In this, he's right in behind. He took the correct track, but he brake checked everyone. Down into the chicane, Harry Banks has picked up a 5-second penalty. Noisy has picked up a 3-second penalty. Mashiro is running side by side with Isotopic for 4th. Doesn't get the move done though. A lot of action happening earlier on. Half of the lap gone, and Simply Superman leads the way by 0.8 of a second. Had to cut across the track, of course, with that contact from Tom. That will be looked into, as will everything else. Perpetuum, by the way, has just lost 2 positions. Further down the field, he's up now 3 positions, 4 positions as Zara now goes down the inside line, and off goes an AlphaTauri. Make is off on the inside line. He gets recovered though. Noisy, by the way, is down in 14th position after that contact at the start. Simply Superman leads the way. Tom tries to go for the inside line and running through with Scary. Doesn't get quite the move done. Gets a phenomenal run on the exit though. Simply Superman though out on top. Harry Banks in second. Tom in third, and we now settle down from what was a very hectic first lap of the race. Chris, we run on board with him, right on the back of Azara, running down in towards turn number 11 at Parabolica. Noisy is round in the background, coming through the end of the middle sector. As Chris is under pressure from Perpetuum as well. And now, side by side, running down the straight, it is between Tom and Harry Banks, and Harry, gotta be careful. Tom completely messed up his braking point down in towards turn 1 last time around. He'll know his braking point this time around. They goes inside of each other as they come down through turn 1, now through turn 2, and Tom with the switchback. The Goldstein really doesn't work on this game, however, and Tom gets the good run out, and he's now through, and he's into P2 out on track. But look at the gap that Simply Superman has got. It's probably around 2.5 seconds, I would say, at this point, maybe a little bit less than that, but a phenomenal start from Simply Superman. The Irishman out on top. Tom in second, Harry Banks in third, Isotopic in fourth. Tom makes a side mistake, and now Harry Banks has got to the inside line, running down towards Lesmo Warren, tries to have a go down the inside line, but the outside line I think is going to repel off Harry Banks for now. He's still going to think about it down the inside line into the second Lesmo, but for P2 and 3 they're getting going, and it's about 2 seconds the gap, as I say, to Simply Superman. The Irishman has bolted out in front, and of course he drives for TRT, I believe, in EML, so with one eye to that possibly as we come towards the end of the second lap. But Simply Superman leads. We've now settled down pretty much. A little bit of a slide there. I think that might have been Jorg or Mashiro, one of the two, that slid out of Ascari. Noisy, by the way, just came through the first sector, so all the interval timings now begin to fix themselves. But look at that gap. Simply Superman has absolutely bolted out in front. It must be a 2-second gap coming across the line. Sets a new fastest lap of the race, and the gap's still not updating. It'll be the end of this lap that the gap's update. Tom's there in second, Harry Banks in third, Isotopic in fourth, with Mashiro in fifth. Jorg pulling out on the slipstream, not 0.7 of a second, that gap, by the way, down towards turn number 1. He's in 6th position, right in behind, actually, the likes of Mashiro and Isotopic. Wedge in 7th, Hazara in 8th, Chris in 9th, good start from him. Perpetuum in P10. With Thiago 11th, Make in 12th, Break in 13th, and Noisy in 14th position. Already been into the pit lane for that mandatory pit stop that you've got to make as well. Got really wide then, actually, side by side, possibly between Perpetuum and Chris. And Chris stays in P9, Perpetuum in P10 yet for now. But you can see, you can just hear the revving, actually, of Chris coming out of the corner, just feathering the throttle. Listen to this. Having to feather the throttle, basically, on the exit of the corner, as Wedge put himself nearly into the gravel there, just in the foreground of shot. But Chris, just under pressure, I think, from Perpetuum. That gap is not 4.5 tenths, I would say. It's probably around 2 tenths of a second, running down in towards Ascari. Chris is lagging slightly down in towards Ascari. Makes a slight mistake, a little bit of a slight rub on the rear tyre, I should say. As Perpetuum picks up a 3-second time penalty, ran slightly wide, but look at him now, closing in on the back of Chris. There is another yellow flag. I can't see who that is for. I think that's just a rogue yellow flag that has came out on track. However, Simply Superman out on top. Tom now in second, Harry Banks in third, Isotopic in fourth. And he's still come through with Mashiro there in fifth. Jorgen sixth. Perpetuum still looking close to him on the back of Chris. Of course, no DRS in wet conditions. So they've got to be done the whole way down in towards turn number 1. And Perpetuum down in towards turn number 1, dives it down the inside line into the vestibular chicane. Going to get the traction on the exit, and Perpetuum is through. The defending champion of TTML Division 1 is through, and he's into 9th position. But 3-second time penalty already on the cards. And in terms of the penalties, by the way, there are the penalties. Simply Superman, 10-second time penalty, didn't back off the throttle with a 10-second time penalty through turn 1. He made a slight mistake, actually. Tom's right on the back of him, actually. Hobang's on 5 seconds, Perpetuum and Noisy all on 3. So that's penalty updates quickly as we go on to lap 4. Isotopic just pressurised all. Mashiro's gone off into the gravel. Mashiro into the gravel, recovers the car, and it's going to be overtaken, I think, by Hazara here as well. So he's going to lose 3 positions for the price of 1 after making that mistake. And Simply Superman out on top. But look at the gap. That gap was 1.5 seconds last time around. And Tom looks absolutely on it. Looks to the inside line. Job is done. Running down in towards Parabolica. All the curve, the new curve that we're going to call it. Tom comes through the final corner though in Parabolica to the lead of the race. He goes, and that is crucial, of course, because his 2 nearest rivals have got a 10-second penalty and a 5-second penalty to boot as well. So Tom now may be on course, not only for my prediction to go right, but maybe for the race win as well. So running down towards turn 1 once again through the vestibular chicane. Lap 5 at 27. We're a bit quicker actually than I expected. Mashiro still on the back of Hazara after that mistake. Running through 7 and 8. Battle for 3rd though beginning to heat up. Isotopic just looks like he's pressurising Harry Banks slightly. 0.5 of a second currently as we see it. However, Isotopic was pretty much right on the back of him. Speaking right on the back, Perpetuum on the back of Mashiro. P8 and P9 currently out on track. But in these conditions, very, very difficult to overtake and very, very difficult to try and get the move done. But Tom leading the way, Simply Superman in 2nd, Harry Banks in 3rd, and being informed, Simply Superman drives for TTG and not for TRT. I should know these things, honestly. This is what you get when I'm a solo commentator. Tom though out on top from Simply Superman in 2nd, Harry Banks there in 3rd, Isotopic in 4th, York there in 5th, Wedge in 6th. And again, just running over this battle for 3rds as we come through Ascari. Harry Banks looks on it. P3 at the minute. 1.8 seconds is the gap to Simply Superman. However, remember, 10-second penalty and a 5-second penalty later on in this race will prove crucial. Perpetuum, by the way, is through on Mashiro. Didn't see what happened. I think Mashiro might have had a slight mistake coming out of Ascari. And Perpetuum sails on by as now Chris tries to tackle the back of Mashiro. Isotopic is into the pit lane very early on indeed. A 5-second penalty for spinning into the pit lane. I wonder what tyres he's going to go on. Maybe on a set of inters once again. Chris trying to close in on the back of Mashiro though down in towards turn number 1. And yeah, stay as we are down in towards turn number 1 through the rest of video chicane. It's just lagging slightly. Isotopic, very, very interesting to come into the pit lane and put on a set of intermediate compounded tyres. I can only think that is to react maybe to what's to come later on in the race. Maybe full wet conditions, I'm thinking, later on in the race. Answers on a postcard, please, I think, with that one. But Isotopic in 13th, there is a yellow flag, and it's Make who is round. Make is round, coming through the Della Roger chicane, through turns 4 and 5. Noisy bangs in now, the fastest lap of the race. But Tom out on top. Superman, though, on the back of him. 1.1 seconds, not letting that gap go away. He might have a 10-second penalty for not backing off the throttle through turn number 1. And if I was personally one of the stewards in TTML, I wouldn't look much into that because he didn't back off the throttle and we were on a ball with him when he could have crossed the chicane. And Simply Superman, though, he looks like he's beginning to pick up the pace, though, slightly. Second the gap and staying it consistent on the back of Tom. Harry Banks there in 3rd has pulled away, of course, from Isotopic. He might have tried to do the undercut, actually, on those tyres. However, these guys can last quite long on this set of intermediates. I said around the halfway stage, around lap 13-14. Wedge, by the way, is on the back of York. I don't think he's going to be close enough down in towards turn 1. And he's not. Wedge stays in behind on the back of York for now. Tom leading the way. Simply Superman in 2nd, Harry Banks in 3rd. We'll run above those still with Wedge. As he now uses up that ERS to try and attack running through the Curva Grande. And again, just use a bit of ERS just to close up onto the rear end of York. Braking slightly later than him as well. You can see how difficult it is on the braking zone. You can see, just proven that, York nearly making a slight mistake there. And Wedge still on the back, trying to pressurise him into that full scent hood out on track. He's trying to basically force him into a mistake as Wedge nearly makes his own mistake, and just Hazara closes in slightly. In terms of position gains, by the way, position gains are as follows. Hazara's gained 6 positions from 12th on the grid. Very good start from him. 4 positions gained for Chris and Tiago, so very good starts from them from the backfield from 13th and 14th. Tom has also gained 3 positions off the start. I did say, watch out for him in this race. He's dominating now. 1.8 seconds the gap. And also positions gained for York and Wedge. 3 positions gained. Everyone else has either changed, or if you're simply Superman, you haven't gained a single position and you haven't lost a single position out on track. But lap 8 out of 27, nearly through the 1/3 stage here in TTML F1 tonight. There's Tom leading the way. 2 seconds the gap. And honestly, this is beginning to look like his Bahrain drive last week. If you didn't tune into Bahrain, go and watch this back. Go and watch the Bahrain race back after this one in Italy, and you'll see what I was on about in terms of the pace. He absolutely carved his way through the field in the midpoint of this race, of the race in Bahrain, in the latter stages as well, and absolutely destroyed the field by, I think, was nearly about 8 seconds in the end. And it was so impressive, but look at the gap, it's just beginning to go out. It's 2 seconds now, the gap. Hazara, by the way, going side by side with Wedge as we cut on board now. Perpetuum trying to get involved in this as well, but a lovely move by Hazara down the inside, in towards Lesmo 1, now through Lesmo 2, and Hazara is clearing it into P5, and he's making Wedge look like a very ordinary driver, by the way, in all of that. Make has picked up a 3-second time penalty. Wedge, though, on the back of Hazara. That doesn't get the move done. But that was clean driving from both of them. Both of them, of course, Norwegians, Hazara and Wedge. And now Perpetuum right on the back of Wedge. And he's nearly wedged underneath the rear wing as he comes down in towards Parabolica. Again, no pun intended. Perpetuum on the back of Wedge. The McLaren under pressure. Tom bangs in the new fastest lap of the race, though. 1:28.2. Nobody living up at that pace at the minute. Perpetuum, by the way, is into the pit lane. So Perpetuum is in. And obviously, he didn't pick up that penalty for cutting turn 1, like Simply Superman and like Harry Banks did. He's into the pit lane to put on a fresh set of rubber, to put on a fresh set of intermediate compound of tyre. And maybe actually looking to the weather conditions, because it looks to me as if the rain might have just got a little bit slightly easier out on track. Mashiro, though, the Japanese man, out on track, and he's under pressure from Chris. As the TTG man now comes, tries to go down the inside line in towards the Della Roggia chicane. Doesn't quite get the move done. But we want him over the leader because Tom, 3.2 seconds the gap. Simply Superman is either making slight mistakes and it's costing him a lot of time, or he just cannot live with this pace of Tom. And honestly, Tom, he's 2/10 off his fastest lap last time around. Mashiro, by the way, is overtaken by Chris, running down the curve at El Salvador. We come over with that a little bit late. However, Chris is through, and he's into P number 7, out on track. Mashiro just nearly rear-ended them there in towards the Ascari chicane. But, as he nearly loses it again coming out of Ascari, and now drops 0.8 of a second back. Make has picked up another 3-second time penalty out on track. Got to be very careful in terms of the penalties. Tom banks himself onto lap 10. Simply Superman there in second. Harry Banks in third. None of the guys in behind coming into pit lane just yet. Perpetuum, by the way, did get ahead of Isotopic as Mashiro now comes into the pit lane with a 5-second speeding into pit lane penalty. Perpetuum and Mashiro, this is going to be quite close because they were right around each other when the first pit stop was made by Perpetuum, and he's now coming out of Parabolica now. So, Perpetuum, not only ahead of Isotopic, by the way, he could be ahead of Mashiro on all this as well. Mashiro's just coming out of the pit lane to the right-hand side. You'll see him just coming out on the right-hand side. There he is, and Perpetuum is through, and so will Isotopic. Isotopic is also through. On towards P12 he goes, and down in towards turn number 1. Perpetuum then, looking good at the minute, maybe for a net podium. Isotopic there in 12th, Mashiro there in 13th, Noisy there still in 14th after that early mistake and early moment off the grid. Maybe to do with wheel spin, I've been told in the Discord. But Tom out on top, Simply Superman in second, Harry Banks in third. And again, this race just blowing in the ball slightly. Makers, by the way, has crashed, and we've got a safety car. Safety car right on track. The one moment I look away from the screen, we get a safety car, and he's crashed off into the wall. He's gone straight on there. Coming through, may have caught on the inside curb, but a little bit too early. Spun the car around, makes into the wall, and he's out of the race. As now Tom will dictate this, as he now comes into the pit lane. So Tom is in, and I'm not surprised if everyone else will now follow him suit. But does this really harm the chances of Tom and the likes of Simply Superman later on in this race? Remember, Harry Banks and Simply Superman have to serve up their penalties, and we'll watch on board with Simply Superman as he now comes into the pit lane. And pit crew not working on that car, so means he still has to serve up that 10-second penalty. And I believe it was a stop and go, if I'm not mistaken. I'll quickly check the race director for him. It was an invalid lap time, is what it's saying. However, if I go on incidents, you can see that, oh, it was a corner cutting penalty. My bad, it was a corner cutting penalty, and he's picked up 10 seconds worth of penalties as a result of that. Harry Banks, however, picked up a 5-second stop-go penalty. That's the difference. Harry Banks now behind Simply Superman by 6.3 seconds, sticking to the delta time for now. But, of course, they could be all under the safety car conditions. So, nearing the halfway stage, Jorgard on top. Yeah, the only man actually not to pit so far in this race. Everyone else has made at least one stop out on track. Tom there in second with Simply Superman in third. If you're enjoying other streams, by the way, F2 and F3 also live, and the task system is running in F2 as well. Matt Tibos has just spun, quite literally live. They're on to lap 15 already, so if you want to go and tune for that, I will suggest you do. But, of course, we've got a safety car, and the safety car period is going to end very soon indeed in terms of getting the action back out on track. F3 also is live. I believe the stream, however, has been split into 3 parts. I believe we're having a few connection issues on the F3 stream, maybe from ISN or Iverbryn Mikeson. Of course, they're covering F3 tonight. Halsbury currently leading that one. Heartbroken 9 second, Vettel in third. Looking like a dry race again. Why is it that F3 and F2 get a dry race and we get a wet race? Explain that one in the comment section. Thank you. Yo, they're leading the way. On to lap 13 we go, or lap 12 I should say we go. And it is York out on top, from Tom there in second. Simply Superman, as I say, in third. Harry Banks in fourth. Wedge in fifth. Hazara, Perpetuum, Chris, Thiago and Brake run off the top 10. Who does this safety car, though, benefit more? I've got to be honest and say it benefits the top guys more. The top guys, of course, came into the pit lane last lap around, put on a fresh set of inters. It will serve them right, definitely out on track. It looks like the rain might be getting a little bit easier. Might see the rain stop very soon indeed, hopefully, and we might get to dry running later on in this race. But Jorgard on top. Tom in second was in the lead, so he really only lost 1 position as a result of this safety car. I think for the likes of Perpetuum, for the likes of Break FN, who came into the pit lane as well, and the likes of Mashival, they're well down the field. They came back in once again. Perpetuum's there in 7th. He's there on merit. He could go up those tyres towards the end of the race, but it's only if the tyres will actually make it towards the end of the race. They can. 17 lap old inters, I should say, should make it. It's like 17 lap old mediums, of course, without the wetness and without the extended tyre grip out on track for the intermediates. Perpetuum doesn't really. I think it hinders him more than actually helps him, if that makes any sense. Sun is trying to break through here, by the way, in Italy. And the rain is still falling out on track, but the sun is beginning to break through. And I wonder if we're going to get to a period where, if you've seen it before, if you've done it in league racing before, you'll know what I mean. The sun beginning to come through out on track, it will dry the track. If the rain stops, even better. The rain is still falling, but if the sun is beginning to break through the clouds, it might dry the track. And we could get dry running on a slightly damp track later on in this race. I would say around the lap 20, 21 mark, probably where, if this rain stops, the sun gets out, we're going to go full dries, probably later on in the race. Superman said, full wet race. However, conditions like to play a factor on this game, and Cody's don't like to tell us that many lies too often, do they? But Jorgard on top, from Tom in second, Perpetuum down there in 7th, but Simply Superman there in 3rd. And hopefully, as I say, you are enjoying all of the action that is unfolding here on League Racing TV. Pepperoni, by the way, has just came into the comment section and said he crashed in TTML F3. Well, I've got to say, welcome along. It's only me. My voice is sore. I need a menthol. I need a new drink. I'm only halfway through this race. That's all I'm going to say. But, of course, fantastic to have you, of course, in the TTML F1 chat. And unfortunate, of course, that you did crash. But it's the nature of the track, the nature of the Temple of Speed at the Autodrome National de Monza. It really, this is one of the epitome races, I think, in any motorsporting world. Winning the Italian Grand Prix is like winning the World Cup, basically. You want to win a race like this, of this stature, of this historic. It really begs to differ. I have just seen the rain has stopped. The rain has stopped out on track. We're going to get going very soon indeed. But what I've said literally has happened. We could get dry running towards the end of the race, maybe on a slightly damp track. But safety car coming in this lap, and it is Jorg who will lead on the VSC. He is basically the virtual Bermalander now, out on track, and he's the one that's dictating this pace, and you can tell, look at the gap that Perpetuum's got. Perpetuum needs to close that gap, and quickly. That's more than 10 car lengths, I think, certainly from Perpetuum's end. But does he want to get the clear running, or does he want to close up to the back? I think he wants to just try and hold these guys back, and then get onto the back of the safety car queue, coming around the final corner in towards Parabolica. Jorg now dictating this pace well. Tom there in second, Simply Superman in third, and now we say go! Jorg now powers down in towards turn number 1, and across the start-finish line we go, halfway through the race, lap 14 we go, and Jorg leads the way, but Tom already on the back, already chomping on the bit. Hopefully he doesn't mess up his braking point like he did in towards turn number 1 on lap 1. Round the outside line he goes, and the Mercedes, there's a Red Bull coming steaming down the inside line. That's Harry Banks, managed to get through the corner okay, 3-second penalty, but it's side by side now between the Aston Martin and between the Mercedes, and it's easy enough for the Mercedes because Jorg makes a mistake, and Thomas Clooney's into the lead of the race further down the field though. Simply Superman, 2 by 2 almost we go. Simply Superman 3's into third. Harry Bank gives that back position in towards P4. Perpetuum dying the inside line of Wedge, nearly gets P5. Doesn't quite get the move done. Everyone having to run over the curb. Brick FN certainly running over the curb. There in the background of shot, but Tom leads the way out on track, and already the bird has flown 1.1 seconds. Nobody is catching him in a hurry out on track. Simply Superman with the 10-second penalties there in third. He's on the back of Jorg. Hazara, by the way, got a much better run out on Perpetuum, and now through the cover Del Cerraglio, they're running side by side. Down the straight they come. P6 and P7 in towards Ascari, and the Alpine backs off. So the AlphaTauri is through, Hazara through, and he is in to P number 6, out on track. As I take a refreshing drink, Tom leads the way. Jorg in second, Simply Superman in third, Perpetuum again on the back of Hazara, running down in towards, oh, and he nearly gets caught in a half spin. Think he dived that nearly down on the inside line. And these are the positions of Chris as a result, and Chris now run on the back, but here comes Superman on the back of Jorg, and you can see the track, how much it's dry, and out on track. We're going to get dry running very soon indeed, I would think. We're only in the next 5 laps or so. Tom, though, leading the way. Jorg in second, Simply Superman in third, side by side, further down the field though. Tiago tries to go all the way around the outside of Isotopic, gets the move done. Brilliant stuff by the Mercedes boys. Tom's in the lead, but Tiago has pulled off one of the best moves I think I've seen in the wet around here in Italy. Round the outside of turn 1, he goes, he's through. Isotopic, however, is saying, no, you're not having that position. Down the inside I come, and Tiago holds sway. The Frenchman in front of the Norwegian. Tiago in through, and he's into P9. And Mashiro on the back of this as well, out on track in P number 11. There's Hazara as well on the back, trying to get Wedge into full centred again, out on track, trying to make him into that mistake, trying to get him to try maybe and force Harry Banks into a mistake as well, and maybe pick up 2-3 positions. But look at the track, look at how much it's drying out there, certainly on a lap-to-lap basis. If we're not dry running by the end of this race, then I don't know what's wrong with Phil Masters, to be honest. But Tom leading the way, Jorg in second, Simply Superman in third. By the way, if you do hear me chomping slightly, I have now put a menthol in just to keep my voice going towards the end. Very hard being a solo commentator here on TTML F1. However, Chris on the back of Hazara, trying to get the move done down in towards turn number 1. We'll run and board them with the Ferrari. Cuts the outside line now in the Ferrari. Don't think he's going to try it though. Could do. Run the outside line. No. Chris stays in P7, Perpetuum in P8. There was a little bit of lag there, I think, between the both. Maybe a little bit of contact induced and all of that with Perpetuum. But Chris is in P7, Perpetuum in P number 8. Jorg, by the way, doing a very good job, I'm going to say, in second. He just got the corner there slightly coming to the Westphalia chicane. But in P2, Simply Superman, with a 10-second penalty, remember, later on in this race, which will be added on to his time at the end. Harry Banks with 3 seconds now. We suffered that 5-second penalty in the pit lane. Jorg, though, in second. And I honestly think, if we go dry, next couple of laps, Jorg is with a good chance of winning this race. The Dutchman could have a really good shot at winning this. Of course, Simply Superman, that 10-second penalty won't be removed. Harry's 3-second penalty won't be removed. But can anyone catch Tom out on track? And no, not our graphics man, of course, Tom, who is away at work at this moment in time. Tom, though, leading the way from Jorg in second, Simply Superman in third, Harry Banks in fourth. And thank you very much for keeping me going, by the way, in the comment section. I see you there. I see you. Simply Superman on the back of Jorg. Lap 17 out of 27. Still 11 laps to go. 11 laps for my voice probably to go as well, especially if we go to dry conditions. Tom though leading the way. Jorg in second. Simply Superman in third. And if you just rewind the stream back, rewind it to 2-3 laps ago, you can see how much this track is actually drying out on track. It's not drying as much as what we would think. However, Superman is going to try and make a lunge down in towards turn number 4 into the Westphalia chicane. Doesn't look to the inside line now. Isotopic, however, on the back of Thiago is going to try and fight back after that outside move, of course, through turn 1. And Thiago remains in P9 as well. Perpetuum really on the back of Chris as well. Not good for my voice, all of these battles, but Perpetuum's on the back of Chris, P7 and P8. And Harry right on the back of Simply Superman as well, who in turn is on the back of Jorg. Once again, running down in towards Ascari. I don't think he's going to get the move done. So, we've got 10.5 laps to go. And if you're just tuning in at this point, welcome, first and foremost. And where have you been all this time? Tom leading the way. Jorg in second. Simply Superman in third. Further down the field, Perpetuum on the back of Chris. 7th and 8th. A long car train now between Jorg and between Perpetuum. 2nd to 8th. Covered around 3.5 seconds, I would say, at this stage. Perpetuum, however, doesn't want to try and hang around. He's on the back of Chris. I wonder, actually, the likes of Noisy, the likes of Break FN, do they come into the pit lane and try out that set of soft compound tyres? Because I'm telling you now, I don't think we're too far away from dry running out on track. It might be that, well, I said earlier on in the stream, lap 20, lap 21, we could get dry running. I stick by that. I think that track will be dry, maybe by lap 20, 21. And if that's right, I could be getting 2 predictions right, maybe 3 predictions right in the space of 1 race. Who knows? Tom leading the way though. Harry Banks though on the back of Simply Superman, and he's now come and try and come steaming down the inside line, and Superman tries to break out. Jorg is down in towards the Westphalia chicane. Doesn't quite. Jorg hangs on for P2. He's doing a phenomenal job, losing the time though. All of these guys in behind. Simply Superman, Wedge tries to go all the way around the outside as well, doesn't quite work, and Azara barges him out the way as well, and then still side by side, in towards Lesbo 2, and Azara has to back off there, Wedge, and he's now through, he's into P5. A little bit of rough and tumble going on, I would say, but all fair in love and war. Azara through, he's into P5. Wedge will not be happy, he made a mistake as well, running wide in towards P8, but out on track, Wedge not in a good position now. He's further down the field. Might have picked up slight side pod damage as well with that contact. Superman though right on the back of Jorg, running in towards Parabolica of all corners through the cover Alboreto as well. Simply Superman around the outside line. That's the difference between 6 lap old inters and 17 lap old inters. However, it's still side by side as we now come around the final corner to start lap 19. And Simply Superman is through, but look at Jorg's ERS, 74%. Of that ERS can be used up. Harry Banks as well, right on the back. Everyone, it's going to get, I think, quite leery quickly in this race. Bashiro as well under pressure from Noisy further down the field. Breakoff in there in 13th as well. Tom No leading the way. Support there for Jorg in the comment section. Yeah, Jorg is doing a phenomenal job. However, he's going to be overtaken by Harry Banks to the inside line. Goes Harry Banks to the inside. And the Master of Italy is through on pretty much the master of the Inters. Harry Banks is through, and he's into P3, and now Hazara right on the back of Jorg as well, and Jorg now beginning to lose that tyre wear. 18 lap old Inters, but really getting in now to the nitty-gritty of whether those tyres can get to the end of the race, and whether or not we're going to get dry running to the end of the race. There's hardly any spray out on track, as now Hazara looks to the outside line on Jorg. Aston Martin against AlphaTauri. Aston Martin remains in P4. But remember, this is technically a battle for the podium, possibly, between all of these guys. Perpetuum right on the back of Chris as well. Slight moment there from Chris, but took a lot of curb coming on the exit. DRS surely has got to be enabled. I highly doubt there's hardly any spray coming off these tyres now. That is intention. We're pretty much at the delta point, I would think, between the crossover between dries and Inters. That's where I think we're at. However, it could swing one of both ways. It could swing dries, it could swing Inters, and who knows what it's going to be like, especially if it comes in towards the final couple of laps as Hazara tries to dive it down the inside line of Jorg. Bit of a half commitment through there. Tries to size him up on the exit of on the exit of the Rettifilio chicane. I was going to say that right, and now side by side, Hazara to the outside line against Jorg, and again, look at the tyre wear. 8 laps against 19 lap old Inters, but still, the 19 lap old Inters prevailing. Jorg is doing a stunning job, I've got to say, to even defend 4th position at this stage. Those tyres must be in the red zone by now. They must be worn. And Hazara doing a phenomenal job as well to try and get past him. Jorg, though, is just like that metal wall that Trump tried to build in 2018, 2019, when he was in his presidency. Jorg is like that wall, out on track, and he's stopping the drivers behind from coming through. There's now Noisy Mashiro battle side by side, down and towards Ascari as well. Williams against Aston Martin, and there's contact between them both, and Mashiro's in the wall. Mashiro was in the wall, and I think that was induced possibly by Noisy just not leaving enough room around the outside line. He thought he was clear, he wasn't, and Noisy into P11. Mashiro pretty much now out of contention, unless dry running comes, unless there's another safety car out on track. But now, could have a 3 wide moment down in towards turn number 1. I don't think we're going to get close enough. Could have 2 wide though. Chris right on the back of Hazara. Look at the ERS that Chris has got compared to Hazara. It's around the same point. And look at Perpetuum's ERS as well. Through turns 1 and 2 we go. Through the Rettifilio chicane. Chris gets all out of shape. And now this opens the door for Perpetuum to try and come through. Hazara right on the back of Jorg. Jorg is still defending mightily well. But he can only defend for so much, because here comes Hazara on the back. Chris as well, side by side with Perpetuum, running down in towards the Rettifilio, the Della Roccia chicane in fact. And the Ferrari, how on earth these guys have not pitted? Mashiro, by the way, is into the pit lane for a set of soft compound tyres. Yeah, for a wing change, but this is now the point. Mashiro is perfect. 13th position. Let's see how much time he loses or gains out on track. Looking by his momentum coming out the pit lane, I think it's still Inters. It is literally that thin of a margin. You're travelling on a thin rope, basically, on a tight rope. You're travelling on that. And look at the time that Mashiro's losing on that set of soft compound tyres. Everyone, if you're listening, stay out for Inters. Simple as that. Tom leads the way. Simply Superman in 2nd. Harry Banks in 3rd. Jorg in 4th. And that battle for 6th as well. What can Perpetuum do? On the back of Chris. Can he try and fend his way through? On the back of the Ferrari. Mashiro is still losing a lot of time compared to Brake. However, he might have timed that right, you know. We'll have to see later on in this race. Perpetuum, though, on the back of Chris, the 2 Germans now nearly going side by side down in towards turn number 1. And almost looked like there was a little bit of decent contact going on. Almost looked like Perpetuum was going and play Isotopics in the wall. Isotopic into the wall, coming out of turn number 1. No safety car, VSE needed to be deployed. And no damage actually on the car. I think he's just caught on the curb and spun. Hazara now looks to the inside line on Jorg. Doesn't quite get the move done. Switch back though to perfection. Hazara now on the inside line. Look at that ERS usage. Flies it down the inside line. They come out of camera angle and Hazara's through into P4. Picture perfect from the Norwegian. Hazara is through and he's into P4. And now he could be on the warpath to try and get a podium. And speaking on a warpath as well, Chris right on the back of Jorg. Jorg is now at the mercy really of what these tyres are going to do. Mashiro was back into the pit lane. He had to try something. Somebody had to try something. It's inevitable. It's still intermediate conditions. And now Jorg, look at that poor exit from Jorg. And now look at Chris's speed. And look at Perpetuum in behind as well. We'll take this from Perpetuum's perspective. Jorg there in P5, Chris in P6. Chris tries to go all the way around the outside line, but the line opens up down the inside line for Perpetuum. Nearly contact between the three of them. Chris around the outside low, absolutely brilliant. Perpetuum gets caught out, and now Jorg is right on the back of this of Chris as well. And we run down in towards turn 1, but now Harry Banks trying to launch it on the back of Simply Superman. It's kicking up quite quickly here. There is a spin of Mischivo out of the pit lane. I think it's just spun. He's letting everyone else through. Jorg tries to dive it down the inside line and holds everyone up. Chris now to the outside line, and Perpetuum just says, you know what, I'm coming through. You might be on 22 lap inches, but get out of the way, my son, he says, and the German is through, and he's into P6 as Harry Banks goes all the way around the outside and towards the Della Roger chicane. He is through, and he's into P2. And I think Tom's made a mistake. Tom has made a mistake out in front. He's lost a second and a half. He's made a mistake, but he's dominating still. He is dominating out on track. Well, at this moment in time, Tom is winning this. Harry Banks is second, Simply Superman in third. Perpetuum, obviously, with that penalty, drubs my prediction out completely, because I've got the first two right at this stage. Harry Banks though will have a penalty as well, with 3 seconds. Simply Superman's got 10 seconds. Hazard doesn't look like he's got the pace though compared to the guys ahead of him. And that's good for Harry Banks. He could get possibly P2 out on track, but we'll have to wait and see. Perpetuum though, on the back of Chris, and look at him, coming storming past, down in towards Parabolica, and Perpetuum is through, down into the inside line of Parabolica. Chris though is shoving them, pretty much NASCAR style, through the Parabolica, as actually, Jorg decides to come into the pit lane. He might go into dry set of tyres. I don't think it's dry. I don't think we're getting dry running late on in the race, surely. Chris on the back of Perpetuum. However, Perpetuum is through and he's into P5. Stunning race going on here in Italy. Fantastic stuff. Tom leading the way though. Harry Banks in second. Simply Superman in third. And at the moment, watch that gap. Harry Banks to Hazara. 3.1 seconds. And we'll have a look, actually. We'll get the leader, the gap up for you. There's the leader's gap. And, we'll have a look at that. Harry Banks, Hazara, 3 seconds pretty much, the gap. 1/10 at this moment in time will split either Harry Banks getting P2 or Hazara getting P2. And that's just the nature of this race at this moment in time. Tom is guaranteed, I think, unless he doesn't make a mistake. Tom is guaranteed this race win. He's been dominant once again. Absolutely unbelievable drive from him. Again, shades of Bahrain in places as well, quite dominant. Thiago under pressure though from Noisy. But look at this, Sun now beginning to come through once again. But we're at the point in the race where it's going to be too late. It's going to be too late for a set of dry compounded tyres. So anybody that decides to come in now, you have to go for a set of inters. But everyone's going to be staying out to the end of the race. Lap 25 out of 27. 3 more laps for my poor little voice to keep on going. Perpetuum, by the way, just bangs in a new fastest lap the race out of nowhere. 27.4 from the Alpine to come to show the track getting slightly quicker out on track, and he is getting into that phase, of course, where those tyres are going to be coming into play. Tom leading the way though. Harry Banks in second, Simply Superman in third. Good run out from Thiago on the back of Wedge. Nearly, commentators cursed him. I'm taking that as a nearly, not a full commentators cursed him. Could have ended up easily into the wall there. But Thiago is the Frenchman down in P8. Very lucky to stay alive, I think, in all of that. He can now catch back up to the back of Wedge. He's struggling maybe for a little bit of tyre wear. You can just see on the front left of the tyre, it's really the tyre that takes the hit around here in Italy. Look at the blister going through the middle of the tyre, and that's because of the amount of lockups that is actually happening out on track. And again, a little bit scribbly. It's not going to help him with his tyres. However, we're too late on the race for dry conditions. Anybody that decided to listen to me, you're an absolute fool, and it's your own fault. Tom leading the way. Harry Banks in second. Simply Superman in third. Perpetuum's just made a slight mistake coming out of Ascari. And Chris once again, not within striking distance at the moment, but that gap could easily close down. Tom, by the way, bangs in a new fastest lap, 27.3. Of course, we do get a point. The drivers do get a point for an extra point for the fastest lap of the race. So, if that's being said, Tom will take 31 points out on track. And not only that, He will take the race win and extend his championship lead even further going in towards next week's race. And just for the benefit of everyone, I'll tell you that race now. And it is Spain next week. Paco's coming back for his own race, which will be fantastic. Spain next week, of course. Tom's going to be alongside, who's again doing all the graphics for TTML F1. But really hope you've enjoyed this slightly dimmed down version of TTML F1 here tonight on League Racing TV. Thiago getting close to the back of Wedge, pretty much the closest back of Will. He picked up a 3-second time penalty for that as well. But look at Tom, 8.2 seconds, 8.3 seconds now in the gap, 8.4 seconds. Gap just beginning to go up again, dominating out in front, keeping those tyres as fresh as they can be. Look at the dryness though, coming through Ascari on the outside line. And he is trying to bang in maybe a new fastest lap of the race to boot as well on this. Look at the ERS usage, 5% compared to Harry Banks on 36%. He could try and go for fastest lap later on through the final quarter. We go though, on the final lap of the race we go. Tom leads the way, 8.3 seconds, no fastest lap that time around, he was 4/10 off in the end. But Tom has absolutely dominated this race from pretty much lights to flag. He got such a good start. There's a little bit of question, I would say, around the start. Whether he barged everyone out the way to try and get the win, whether he will lose that in the stupid room remains to be seen. However, P7 and P8 battle. Thiago right on the back of Wedge. The Frenchman has got to try and make a lunge somewhere out on track. It'd be silly not to, but he just stays back. Wedge nearly makes a mistake, but look at how dry this track has suddenly got on the final lap of the race. And Thiago right on the back of Wedge. He's got 36% of ERS. He needs to use this up now to try and get the move done. Around the outside through Curva Grande. And exactly this is what he's going to do. Looks to the inside line now. Running into towards the Rettifilio chicane. The Mercedes though backs off. The McLaren stays ahead. Wedge in 7th. Look at Perpetuum as well. On the back of Hazara. Hazara really struggling with his tyres. And now Perpetuum coming alive. All of this, by the way, guaranteed. I think Harry Banks second. It's still very close maybe between Harry Banks and Hazara. Hazara has got to try his all. Harry Banks has got to try his all for second. It looks to me as if Hazara at the minute is getting the second position, but who knows what is going to happen. Down and towards Ascari for the final time. Well, right on board with our leader is Tom, and Tom comes out through the final corner, through Parabolico, the Curva Alboreto for the final time. Tom, through the final corner, will win here in Italy. Tom to the line, wins in Italy. 8.3 seconds the gap. Harry Banks, though, in second. Hazara has dropped off, and suddenly this becomes a little bit more likely. Harry Banks now to the line in second, but there is Hazara. What's the time going to be across the line? Oh, he's nicked it by 17 hundredths of a second. So close for second, and that is the difference. If you get a good final lap in like Hazara did, and that is the difference between nicking P2 and nicking P3. Unbelievable stuff. Chris finishes in P4 as well. Simply Superman, by the way. All the way then from that possible podium, finishes down in P8. Perpetuum's there in 5th. Wedge in 6th. Breakerfen in 7th. Superman in 8th. Isotopic 9th. Thiago 10th. Noisy 11th. Jorg across the line in 12th. Machu, of course, got lapped out on track and stopped in P13. But driver of the day, awarded by the in-game fans, is Hazara. Yeah, I think he deserves that, to be honest. Tom obviously drove well in front. Hazara, though, really good action down the mid-pack, and Hazara will get, certainly my driver of the day, out on track as well. But to the top step of the podium, can anybody stop the Dutchman of TTG Tom? Tom, very impressive once again. Bahrain, now Italy. Could it be Spain 3 weeks in a row for a win? Who knows? You'll have to tune in and find out for that, of course, next week. And because of how the state of my voice is, I don't think I'm going to carry with the stream a little bit further. But there's going to be no interviews. I'm going to give these guys a little bit of time off as well. But the interviews will return next week. And I really hope you appreciate that, because my voice is absolutely aching after that. But Tom, out on top, has won on P4 on the grid. Phenomenal start. The question of the start might come into play, but what do you award him? Do you award him a 10-second penalty, or do you award him no penalty at all, and he gets that race win? Tom, though, has won. Provisional results, Tom has won. Hazara in second. Harry Banks there in third. 17 hundredths of a second, separating the difference between Harry Banks being second and Hazara being second. And Hazara nicks it in second. Harry Banks in third. Chris in fourth. Perpetuum in 5th, with Wedge in 6th, Break FN in 7th, Simply Superman in 8th, Isotopic in 9th, Tiago ran off the top 10. Of course, more points further down the field with Noisy and Jorg also picking up points along with Mashiro. They all finish on their own result. And Make the Dutchman didn't pick up any points. He finishes down in 14th position, crashing out very early on in this race. But, oh, that is the end for TTML F1 tonight. I really hope you're forgiving in saying that there's going to be absolutely no interviews. Thank you so much, by the way, for your support in the comment section. I really enjoyed this solo commentary. Probably one of the rarest occasions you'll ever see me have a rare solo outing for TTML F1, but that's the nature. Paco, of course, will be back after his power cut. I'm sure his internet will be back on soon. Tom will be back, of course, next week. It's a his schedule is changing, so we might not have graphics week to week as we've normally done in the past. But we will have the task system back up and running for you as well next week. It has been, as I say, a dumbed down version of TTML F1, but I really hope you have enjoyed it, and I really hope that you're going to take from this race the exciting action that we saw, and we're going towards Spain next week. So, on that note, I have been James Head. Thank you so much for watching here, TTML F1. And until next time in Spain, or actually no, what I'll do is I'll give you a little bit of a plug in terms of what's coming up later on this week. TTML F4, myself and James Boyle taking you through the action. TTML F5 tomorrow, it's TFB Buck. I'm not sure if he is actually making that, however it is Buck gonna be making that, hopefully alongside another commentator. We'll sort that out though tomorrow. And then BNL Saturday. And then TTML Sim League on Sunday as well, and then we all begin the roadshow once again. An exciting announcement, of course, to come with regards to the future of EML, and that is going to be bounded about, I'm sure, in the next couple of weeks. You might have seen a tweet about it earlier on Twitter. But I really hope, as I say, you've enjoyed the action. I really hope you've been patient with my poor little voice as well. But from myself, from James Head, thank you so much for watching TTML F1 tonight, and until next time, goodbye.